Everybody hear me? That's good. I'm glad. My name is Lydia
Not that well on
Seda.
this side.
Huh?
They said not that well on this side.
Well, then I'm just going to have to speak a little louder. I think what I should do is stand up for a little bit. I may sit down again, but anyway. Amy always says that she can never take a clear picture of me because I'm always moving. My name again is Lydia Seda. I am actually the founder of Saving Health Seminars, and Amy Williamson is the brains of the operation. She's the assistant, or the co-founder, whatever title she wants to take, I'm good with that. But anyway, and so originally I'm from originally I'm from New York. I was raised in Brooklyn, and so I've been living in several different places since I moved away from New York, since I was around 19 or 20. I lived in Maryland, I lived in Georgia, I've lived in Puerto Rico, I've done missionary work overseas in different places. So I've just been I've done a little bit of everything, you know? And we are trying to start up this ministry to share with people about health. And eventually the goal is to have a little home-like sanitarium where we can share with people and help people to get better without using alternative means. I learned many things about alternative medicine from a place called Uchee Pines Institute. I don't know if some of you all have heard that place. I was there for 16 years.
Wow.
And I worked with Dr. Agnes Thrash, and unfortunately she's no longer with us. That's a great loss. But I learned a lot, and that's one of the reasons why I like to open up a little center. And the Lord has blessed us with a home. Someone in Guntersville, someone gave a donation for the home. So the home was 4 acres was purchased and paid for. And there's a house in front of us that I'm praying for that would be the sanitarium. So I tell you that for those of you that pray, please keep us in prayer that that'll work. Because I think there's a great need for that, all right? And so I've given you a little history of myself. Amy was one of my students at Uchee Pines. And after I left there about 6, 7 years ago to do various things, she said, "Can I come?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" It's always a good idea to go by 2 by 2s, right? You know. And so, so she's been very helpful, and like I said, the brains of the operation for the most part. And so tonight, what I'd like to talk about is choices. And that's my information. And I have cards here. You'll all be getting some cards as well. So if you don't get it all here, I should have it all here, okay? And so, yes, Amy?
And if they want to afterwards for more information, they can fill this out.
Yeah. You all should have gotten a survey. Please fill that out for us, okay? And give us your information. And also, if you can, Amy at some point will be walking around with that clipboard. If you can fill that out for us, it just helps us to get a database. And then when we're having another program, if you're ever interested in coming, we can let you know, okay? And so forth and so on. And so what we're going to talk about today are choices. Now, let me ask you a question. You all, like I said, I move around. I hope I'm not going to be too problematic for you.
No problem.
But that's how I roll, I guess. Now, how many of you here think that having a choice is a good idea? That having choices or a choice is a good idea, right? As you were going, only 2 of us? Only 2 of us. Hopefully everybody, right? As you were going through that line to get food, there were some things that you might have picked from, and others that you said, "No, I don't think so," because I'm not in the mood for that day, or you know what I mean? So choices are very important. And choices actually also dictate our life. Everybody think about that? They determine our lives. Because the decisions we're making, the choices we're making are things that we think about them, we're deciding on them, and then we're living them out. Now, I want to do something here. There's 2 colors. And we're talking about choices. You see the green? Oh, it's looking good. And then you see the purple. Who likes the green? I need to see a show of hands. If you had to pick between the colors, who likes the green? Okay. And then you need to stick with that color though. Can change no matter what. So, and I'll have to get your names in a little bit. this dear lady in the beautiful red jumper, this gentleman with the nice vest, and this other gentleman here with a nice, wonderful watch. And no, you didn't pick that, no. You did, right, Jim?
But you first the other colors,
Uh-huh.
and then you decide.
Oh, okay, let me show you the other colors, okay. Okay. There's only two.
Oh,
That's it. So
okay.
it's either that one or this one. So, again, we got the greens. Who likes the green? And this dear lady. Okay, I'm getting the lady in green. Amy, you got a mental note? Who likes the green? Okay. And I guess everybody else likes the purple? There's only a choice between the two. Unfortunately, I didn't have any more colors. Okay? So which one do you like? It's got to be the green or the purple. You like the purple better? You like the purple? You like the purple better, right? Okay. I have a few people that haven't picked.
I like purple.
You like the purple better? Anybody else?
Is it purple or lavender?
Lavender. I'll give you that one.
Oh, okay.
I'll give you that
Oh,
one.
I like lavender.
Okay. But you got to stick to either the green or the lavender. So, okay. And some of you kind of made a choice not to make a choice, and that's okay too. Now, for those of you who picked the purple, raise your hands again. Purple. You got them? For those of you that picked the purple or the lavender, Amy's going to give you a card. Who picked lavender? D? Okay. For those of you, and D picked one. For those of you who picked the lavender, I'm a massage therapist as well. One of the many things I've learned to do. And you now get a card for half off of massage, which is a really good deal, isn't it?
And she's a good therapist.
No, that means the green ones don't get any. Okay? Because, I'm only kidding, everybody's going to get a card. But the point is, right, if I was going to stick to my gun, you made a choice, right? And that choice now dictates whether or not you come see me. And so that's going to affect your day. You have to decide what day you're going to come. You have to fit into your schedule. I got to fit into mine. So you see how that one choice now has affected your life? If you come and take me up on that great opportunity, because that's a choice you made based on a preference, because you like the color either green or lavender, you know. And so, but everybody's going to get one. So Amy, you can give it to everybody. I was just making a point.
You want me to give them these two?
Yes, please, give them both. I was making a point that we make choices, right, that affect our lives. As simple as picking a color. That's a simple thing. But whatever made us pick those colors would affect us somewhere down the line, right, in this situation. And this is just a little example of that. So that's the lavender, or the purple. Choice is so important because it's part of our free will. It helps us with our determination, because if you make a choice and you're determined, you go on that path. It gives us opportunity. It gives us, so these are other words actually for choice. Preferences. It helps to distinguish things in our lives. It helps us with discrimination, judgment. It gives us options. Imagine a world where we had no options. What would we feel like? If you had
That's
no
what they're trying to get the country to be now.
well,
Where the government
we-
controls everything,
I
tells us
can't-
what we can do.
that
and
would be a
can't
whole different lecture.
do. So you don't want to go there, huh?
And not today, but maybe some other day. But, okay, but in other words, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I have a sense of losing your freedoms. That's basically what you would feel like, right? You would feel like you're kind of enslaved or entrapped. So that's how important choices are. But the thing is that we have to make choices, though, that are smart. Especially when it comes to what? And we all talking about what today? Health, right? We have to make decisions about our health that are smart. Because sometimes we didn't know how to make healthy decisions. We were not as, maybe now you got the internet so people can go Google stuff and you can learn more. And even then sometimes people are not making the best decisions. Or sometimes there's so much stuff out there, how do you know what decision to make? Right? How do you kind of sort through all that stuff? That's what Saving Health is about, Saving Health seminars. It helps you kind of sort through those things. Your dislikes and your likes help create your standards in life. This choice or your choices create standards in your life, creates the way you're going to live. True? Right? Your patterns of thinking because of those choices and your habits of life are all controlled by your choices that you can make, your freedom. But the thing is, you have the freedom. Are you being wise with those choices? That's the thing, right? And I know I haven't always been wise with my choices with deals with health and many other areas, but we're talking about health today. And so I want us to focus in on the fact that when we make healthy choices, actually that helps us to make better choices, right? Why is that? This dear lady here, what's your name? What's your name?
Patricia.
Patricia, why is it that if you're healthy, you can then, that act of just being healthy or being healthy gives you the opportunity to make more better choices or healthier choices? Why is that? Can you?
Well, maybe you don't have the negative influences that you would have if you didn't.
Okay, so we're thinking about literally the way we're thinking because we're making positive choices. Could it be that because we are a chemical factory, right? That controls how we feel, our moods, how we look, It controls how the systems of the body work, the pancreas and the stomach and the liver, that if those things are working better, then we would have more clarity of mind, right? Wouldn't that? If I fill this room up with a bunch of stuff, let's say each part of this room was just filled with something, just stuff, okay? And I walked in, well, how would I feel? First of all, I would feel like I have no room to walk in, right? Number one. Number two, I would also feel burdened. And that's what happens to the body. When we're making poor choices, the body feels what? It feels burdened. And so we're trying to help lift that burden, okay? Thank you for cooperating and participating. I appreciate that. Right health choices so that you can make better choices, not only in health, in other things as well. Okay, let's talk about the brain because that's where all this happens, right? Up here. Sometimes we make our choices based on what we feel and not what we know or what we should know. Let's look at the brain a second. The brain, what is it? Help me here. Help me read those little colorful circles. Anybody?
Analyzing.
Analyzing, another one?
Evaluating.
Evaluating.
Decision making.
Decision making.
Problem solving.
Problem solving. We got one more. And we have reasoning. Reasoning. So what's in between your ears, which doesn't weigh a whole lot, helps to make and do all these things. Now let me ask you something. When we eat something, or when we, let's talk about food, because since you're all eating, the good fats are being what? They're being changed as you chew. As you chew, and hopefully you're chewing enough so that things are broken down, and as you swallow, they literally will become part of you, won't they? That food is going to be broken down, the proteins into amino acids, and the carbohydrates into different types of sugars. They're going to literally become part of you. They're going to become part of your hair, become part of your toenail, become part of the tendons, or the bone, or the cells. You understand? Okay? Literally, it's making you. Right? And so do you think also it's making your brain? If the whole body is, if that's what we're living on? Right? Ever heard the saying, I remember when I was in high school, you are what you eat? Okay. And then as this lady was sharing, you are probably what you think as well. We've heard all this. And let me ask you something. You know cells are being constantly renewed in our body, right? We have cells, they're born, and within several weeks or whatever, or months, I'm not sure exactly the amount of time they're around, they die to make room for newer cells. Let me ask you something. If I'm eating today, let's say today I had a horrible meal, just junky food, okay? Didn't get enough exercise, didn't drink enough water, and this is a cell of that day. Now that cell, did it get the best nutrients?
No.
No. Okay, well good. Maybe somebody would have said yes. But we're in agreement, no, it didn't get the best nutrients, did it? But this cell has to do what in the future? It has to reproduce to make what? More cells. So if this is reproducing with a poor life, I guess, or poor existence, what is the quality of the cells it's producing? Okay, so then this cell is not going to be as good, right? Then this cell, when it produces, woo, it's even more depleted. And then with this cell, and it reproduces, it's going to be even more depleted. So that's why today is so important. You see what I mean? Because our cells don't say, okay, Lydia's not eating right today, we're going to stop and go on strike. And then when she gets back on board, we're going to cooperate again. No, it doesn't do that. It says, okay, well, I'm going to have to do the best I can here with what I got. True? That's why today is so important, to make right decisions. And so the brain is affected. The wonderful thing about the body is that it has an incredible way of rejuvenating itself, of recovering itself. It is amazing. You see here, and we want to look at the frontal lobe, because the frontal lobe is so important because it deals with decision making. The left and the right part of the frontal lobe analyzes, organizes, I'm not going to go through everything, helps to keep things sequential. The other side is creative, imaginative, more conceptual, can see the bigger picture. And so some of us have a tendency of being a little bit more maybe right-brained or left-brained, just depending. It just depends on just the way our DNA was formed, okay? But we all have both, but just some might be a little stronger than the other. The frontal lobe's primary job is to allow us to think things through and determine how to use information that is located elsewhere in the brain. So it's like the command center. Okay, it's very important, one of the main command center, I should say. Your personality, your higher level of thinking are managed in the frontal lobe, your personality. Emotions, reasoning, problem solving, planning, making choices, your memory, and how you deal with your environment, how you make decisions about your environment as well are controlled by the frontal lobe. Everything has to kind of filter through that. Without fully functioning frontal lobes, you may have intelligence, but guess what? You really wouldn't know how to use it. And it's interesting, oh, this picture kind of got cropped, I hope that didn't happen with any of the other ones, that the frontal lobe reaches full maturity around the late 20s. So it's kind of scary. Didn't that just scare you? And then you all have teenagers or folks in their early 20s. Really, the mind doesn't, the frontal lobe doesn't fully develop until you're in the late 20s. Yes, Amy?
I think it pushed up. Was there any info you need on it?
No, it's just,
Okay, the whole.
it could have been when I was fussing with it. That's okay.
Okay. I didn't know if there's something missing you needed.
No, it's probably when I was fussing with it. And so, but just think about that. I just threw that in because the frontal lobe doesn't really develop until you're in your late 20s. That's another thing to consider when you're dealing with young people and when you're raising young folks now, because you know we're hopefully by now our frontal lobe has been developed. Yes, Steve?
That's why they make such bad decisions.
Exactly. Yeah, you got that. That's
They ain't
true.
developed here yet.
It's not all. That's why it's so important for hopefully young people to feel like they can depend or come to their parents. But then again, there's a flip side of that. Parents have to be approachable. That has to work both ways. For them to make decisions, proper decisions. Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. You had your hand up
Oh,
before.
that's right. How does it not being fully developed till you're 20, how does that manifest in their behavior? Like what part of them does that affect? What kind of decisions?
Well, they can be more reckless. A sense of, I remember when I was young, you really you don't have a sense of your mortality. You kind of feel like, this is not going to happen to me, or this wouldn't happen to me. Even some people think of that now. They feel like, oh, I'll never get that illness, But especially when you're that age, you don't have that sense necessarily of fear. You're more reckless, and those are some of the ways it's manifested, okay? Also the idea of peer pressure is so much greater. And I know that can affect us when we're older as well, but when you're at that age, you're in your teens, and as you enter your 20s, the idea of wanting to fit in and not being able to say, well, I don't care if I don't fit in. I know this is the right thing to do. It's something that's a process of maturity for the mind. So those are some of the instances, okay? I hope I answered that question. Now, this is a neuron, or neurons. We have many, many of them. This is what helps for our brains to work, and they want to run on electricity and currents. And so they are specialized chemical messengers that send information from one cell to another. People that have problems with Alzheimer's and dementia many times have something has gone awry. It could be other parts of the brain as well, but something has gone awry with the way these transmitters are communicating. Either some of them are not communicating at all. That's why loss of memory and fog and other things. And that is part of the reason. That's a side note. But these neurotransmitters help with weight, help us to maintain hopefully better weight. It's one thing, because not eating so much and exercising is another thing. Sleep helps with the digestion of the stomach. Heartbeat, how well your heart beats and keeps it functioning properly. Concentration helps your lungs get the air it needs in, and your mood. So those neurotransmitters, our brain, we don't realize how important our brain is and everything that's going on, even now as we're sitting here. Neurotransmitter levels can be depleted. Like I said, people with Alzheimer's or dementia, they have their neurotransmitters that have been depleted for whatever reason. Stress, poor diet, poor lifestyle habits, neurotoxins or excitotoxins that we can find in our food, genetic predisposition. But remember, and this I'll say this, just because you have a disposition for something doesn't mean that you have to fall into that pit, as it were, into that illness. Because I remember a doctor saying once, genetics may be the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. So yeah, if you're predisposed to that, you have to be more careful. That's why it's good to be aware. But that doesn't mean that you necessarily always have to. In many illnesses, you don't have to. And there are some, unfortunately, that maybe that's the case. Drugs, alcohol, caffeine, and the way we think, as you mentioned. I think many of you are Bible believers. Am I wrong? I hope I'm not offending anybody, okay? I want to use the Bible as a piece of literature right now, actually. The Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he. So the way something's happening. To me, that's a biological statement. It's a scientific statement. Because we're seeing now that as people think, it affects their way of life, their habits of life, the way their life goes, whether they have a good life or prosperous life versus not thinking positively. And so it says 86% of Americans have suboptimal neurotransmitter levels. 86% of Americans. And so when I read these statistics, and I read that these are a lot of the things that affect how well or how optimal our brain is going to function, neurotransmitter, how they're going to fire and communicate. I'm thinking, well, we got a lot of Americans that are having either one or multiple issues, right? Am I wrong? Have you maybe been experiencing some of these as well? Okay? I'm sure you may have, and that's okay. That's why you're here, to learn a little bit better, right? To say, wait a minute, I didn't realize that. Okay. If someone has neurotransmitter deficiencies, they may be depressed, mood swings, irritable, they're not able to sleep right, may have panic attacks, brain fog, and even damage from stress. Stress alone can create any illness. Diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, because it creates a chemical factory, a chemical stage for that. Right now, if I was to say to you, if a lion came in through that door, a big, old, hungry lion, what would we be doing? in all
I
honesty.
picture Richard over in front of it.
Huh?
I picture Richard to it.
Okay, okay. No, okay, that's,
I'll stall him a little bit when I get off the
that's
door.
fine, okay. So in other words, so what's your name?
Clarence,
Clarence, sir. So in other words, you would be
worried about
physically
trying to figure out how to
trying to
save my
figure
life.
out how to, and most of us are literally, we'd be doing things that physically we probably couldn't do before the line came in. Now, would we be feeling it right after? Sure we would. But for that moment, we'll go back into our 20s because our body is trying to do what?
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight. It's trying to save us. But the same thing happens when we deal with stresses either at the home, marriage, work, with children, or just our outlook. Those same chemicals. So imagine you running away from the line all the time. Okay, there's just so many of him after he gets eaten that you're gonna,
Might hunt somebody else.
yeah, you're gonna have to really work at that.
Have to learn them soon.
But what I'm saying is that same scenario happens, and I picked on stress because stress alone can create any illness, and it wreaks havoc on the frontal lobe. When people are stressed, you can't think as well. There's less oxygen because there's less blood going to that area. And when you have less oxygen and blood going to that area, you're damaging your frontal lobe. Okay? Another thing that damages the frontal lobe, and they find this more and more, and I'm not going to stay too long on this because that's a whole different topic, is what we watch. They're showing that certain waves are created. You have alpha waves and beta waves and gamma waves, and different waves are created. And when we watch mainly television and movies, and especially the way they're when you have a movie or a television series and you have these constant moving images, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I'm not talking about if you're seeing someone singing or if you're seeing someone having an interview. That's a steady shot. But if you have this constant imagery going back and forth, it creates what we call the zone out, what I call the zone out wave, or the couch potato wave. And it's wreaking havoc with the frontal lobe. Like I said, I want to leave it at that because that's a whole different topic. And I want to cover this. Serotonin, these are all essential hormones that we need for the frontal lobe. Serotonin, low levels decrease our immune function. So that means our immunity is affected. Depletion over time creates carbohydrate cravings. That's why sometimes maybe you're in the kitchen at 12 o'clock at night looking for that snack, okay? Caffeine also causes depletion of serotonin over time. And remember, caffeinated foods like coffee and caffeine has what I call two sisters, which are called theophylline and theobromine, which are found in teas and chocolate. And they do the same thing. So I'm not, if you guys are eating that, I'm not saying cut it all off at once, but start thinking about how this is affecting me. And then start maybe finding alternatives, or talk to me, or talk to Dee. You see what I mean? How can I make some changes? Because we're learning. Right now, your frontal lobe activity is just going through the roof. Because you're thinking, and I see you thinking. I can see you folks thinking, and maybe some of you got ooh, I don't know what I'm doing to myself. Don't despair, That's the one thing about our bodies. Our bodies is a wonderful, the Bible says we are, what was the Bible say? Wonderfully? What's the Bible quote? I'm not remembering it right now.
Fearfully and wonderfully.
Thank you for helping me out with that. And there's a reason for that, because we bounce back really nicely. Yes?
What about decaf? Decaf.
The thing with decaf, okay,
I know it has just a little bit.
they never could take it all out. And I'm thinking, well, after a period of time, and I know, you look online and it's good for this, it's good for this, it's good for this. But as many things that they say it's good for, I can give you a bunch of other things that it's not good for. As far as a decaf, you always have some. And so how much is a little bit going to affect me as well? Caffeine actually, you know what caffeine does? Even small amounts of it actually bypasses. We have a barrier in the brain that helps to protect us against invaders and things like that. It goes across that barrier. Okay? and it actually lodges in transmitters of our brain, especially when we're trying to rest, because they look like adenosine, what we call adenosine, which is one that helps us to sleep at night, and it mimics that, so it keeps us awake initially. After a while, it does something else, because after a while, it doesn't affect us that way anymore when we get used to it. So I'm saying, I don't know if a little bit is not going to harm me. So let me just stay away from it altogether. Because if you look online, they say it is a drug. That's it. It is a drug. And so all drugs have what?
Side effects.
Okay? All drugs have some sort of side effects. Now the other thing is, even if it's only a little bit of caffeine, which it is, traces of caffeine, the thing is that what they do to decaffeinate it is worse than the caffeine. The process is not a healthy one either. So that's why it's something to think about, you know. They're good alternatives to that people might like, to at least get you to transition. And mind you, I come from a Spanish background. I remember growing up, you know, I used to eat Cheerios, right, with café con leche. Does anybody know what that is?
Coffee with milk.
Coffee with milk. Because that's how we drink it, right? You either drink it black or you drink with milk. Guess how I used to have my Cheerios with? So I was raised on that stuff. Okay? And so I started learning and researching more, and I said, and because even the thing is that caffeine is also addictive. That's the other thing. And we all know that there's enough evidence to know that it's addictive. And so things like theophylline and theobromine that are found in chocolate and tea are also, they're sisters. They do the same thing like caffeine. And so they're also addictive. You see people, oh, I need to have my chocolate fix. Am I wrong? Mm-hmm. They crave, you know, this, or they're craving chocolate, or they need their coffee, or I can't function to have my first cup of coffee in the morning. Okay? Now I do recommend that if a person needs to wean themselves, use the decaf for a while, with the goal to eventually, hopefully, get off the whole thing.
Are there
Okay?
some teas that are okay?
Yeah.
The herb teas?
Yes, but you have to look, because green tea actually has caffeine in it. Remember, everything in the health food store is not necessarily healthy. Green tea does, but you have chamomile teas and other teas that are very mild and healthy, and you can utilize that with a little bit of honey. Okay? And sometimes you can add, I like to add some drops of peppermint to give it a little bit flavor, or a little almond extract, natural almond extract. It gives it a little bit different flavor.
We have ginger tea back there if anybody would like some. Just open the pack and put the hot water in there,
There you go.
and you can add some honey.
But are there any green teas that don't have caffeine?
No,
Ginger tea helps to help the stomach
I have not found one yet. I'm sorry. Well, because I just saw the, really? You know, I felt that because I've lived that. You know what I mean? Oh, really? And so try chamomile. The other herbal teas that are tasty. I like red zinger. Yes, Amy?
The black tea falls in category of green tea.
Yeah, black teas as well, like Lipton, but those are kind of obvious. Lipton teas and things like
There are
that.
some herbal teas recently. I went trying to go after them at the other toaster, and they mix the black in it when you read the ingredients. You think it's a healthy mix, you think it's kosher, and then you read it, and it's black or green and added in the
So you
file. You
got
don't just herbal when you look at it.
You gotta read your labels. Gotta get used to reading labels, okay? But I recommend, I'm sharing stuff here, make steps. Because if you make steps, okay, your body will respond. It's a slower process. You don't feel so overwhelmed. Because a lot of times what happens is people, I want to make all these changes, and it's overwhelming. Okay, and you can't, and you're stressing, or I just stress myself out. I'm trying to make changes to help me not be stressed, right? And now I just stress myself because it's too much. Okay? Make changes, make steps, okay? Which is the most important thing. If someone is drinking tea, let's say on a regular basis, well then cut back. Trade it off. Half tea, half the caffeinated, half the herbal. And start cutting back and say, well, maybe in 3 months, I'll be done with it. You see what I mean? And some people say, yeah, but it's not good for you. I go, yeah, but they've been drinking it all along. What's 3 more months maybe? And they're making a change. And I really think God honors that when we're making changes, personally. Okay, thank you for the. You have gamma aminobutyric acid, which helps balances the brain so that it doesn't, get all excited all the time and helps to keep it calm. You have dopamine, which helps with depression and mental focus, and it helps with our drive, our desire to do things. Some people that are depressed, they don't feel like doing anything, right? Their dopamines are probably low. Excuse me, I got a little
I
bit
thought it's
more.
because it's taking too much dope.
Huh? It could be, but
I'm
no.
talking about real dope.
No. But there are times when, it's times when just life just gets to you. It's a matter of maybe someone's had a death of a spouse. And how do you cope with that? Actually, the other day I went to a thrift store, and this gentleman is closing up his little shop. He's only been open 4 or 5 months. The name of his shop is called Ann's Thrift Shop. Guess why? Ann died. And they've lived together for 55 years. I prayed with the man because my heart broke. Even now, my heart breaks for him. Because he did that. Why? He says, I had to get out of the house. So sometimes life, and you can tell, he's trying, but he's hurt, he's depressed. It comes with the territory. And so there are just times in life, there's times when we just, are not doing the right thing, but there are times in life where it knocks us for a loop. And the thing is that then some of these things are depleted. Okay, norepinephrine stimulates, helps us to stay alert, helps with memory, helps with learning, okay, and a sense of well-being, and it helps us to kind of alleviate it helps to alleviate anxiety and anxiety disorders. That's why we need some of that in our system. Epinephrine regulates the heart rate and the blood pressure. Okay? Now see, all of these are connected. And where are the neurotransmitters? In the brain. Where are these things? Dealing with. They start with the brain and they work with the rest of the body. Glutamate is with learning and memory. Acetylcholine, it governs muscle contractions and causes glands to secrete hormones, and it enables, again, learning and memory. It's a lot of dealing with learning and memory. Our life is learning and memory. How many times, a small example, and I know this happens to me when I'm overwhelmed, I have too much going on my plate. It always happens, and you can attest to this. I'd be like, oh, where'd I put this? I don't know where it is. I don't know where half the things are anymore. You know what I mean? Because there's too much going on. And so it's like, and then if things are not organized, because I like to be orderly, because I figured life gets chaotic anyway, so let me keep my part of it as orderly as I can. Because sometimes things just go beyond your control. I know it happens to all of us, right? So if I, for memory and for learning, when I get that stressed out, I feel like things that I'm reading or I'm doing research, it's like it's harder. It's like I have to force myself. It's not coming naturally. And so I realize, and usually if you're stressed out, maybe you're not sleeping as well, maybe you're not eating as well, because they play off each other. It's like a domino effect. And so keep these things in mind. And one big one that a lot of us know about, I didn't have that in here. We talked about the serotonin. Serotonin needs tryptophan and melatonin to work. Well, they all need each other, to work well. I know a while back the big thing was, you went to an airport, you got the melatonin pills to help you sleep, okay? And some people told me, oh, that helped me, and I used to wonder about that because when I worked with doctors at UT Pines, they said that has to accumulate in your body before it works. So I'm not sure how it worked. Maybe it was a placebo effect. I'm not 100% sure. But that's what the doctors told me. But I don't know. Maybe God did something for that person. I'm not going to, you never know, right? But the thing is that for the melatonin to work properly, tryptophan and serotonin, they have to work together. And there has to be, they have to be in right proportions to each other. So keep that in mind as well. And again, what depletes these things? Go back. Here we go. These are the things among this. There are other things that deplete all these hormones that we're talking about. Okay? Now I'll go forward. All the way forward. All Alrighty. And so you need balanced levels of serotonin. That means you need the melatonin and the tryptophan as well for pain, to help us deal with pain, anxiety, sleep, memory. You'll see memory and learning a lot, and sleep as well. Control aggression, elevates your mood. It helps with your eating. It helps you to make good decisions with eating. So when some of these are low, let me ask you a question. For those of us that struggle with weight, especially, you make a resolution and you're trying to stick with it and things are going good, and then things happen in life, right? Because things will always happen in life, right? And all of a sudden your mood is off, or you forgot to do something that day that you should have done, and all of a sudden you're saying, I'll eat that. That's okay. It's only one day. I've been so good, right? The thing is, again, when some of these chemicals are not right, when we're stressed out, and we're not eating right, and things like that, if we're not eating right, how can we continue to make good decisions about eating? You see? Or we're not sleeping right, how can we continue to make good decisions about other things when we're not sleeping right, or how to sleep? You see what I'm getting at? They have to work together. And you know why I bring this up? Because many times people will have this one thing. Natural thing, good thing. I remember a while back, I don't know, it's been quite a few years, echinacea and golden seal was like, oh, the thing. Right. Some of you remember that? Then noni juice, oh yes. And yes, and these things in and of themselves are good.
Barley green.
Huh? Oh yes, barley green. Yes, barley green will cure everything. You know what it reminds me of? You know that in the Western shows, in the West, the Wild West, you had the medicine guy come with his buggy.
Snake oil.
The snake oil, right. And his elixir saying, oh, this will cure rheumatism, and this will cure depression. The bottle will cure everything. And usually what that bottle was, mostly alcohol. Okay?
You was drunk, you didn't feel nothing.
Oh, exactly. So
Nothing hurt.
yeah. But the problem is, for the moment it doesn't hurt, but it comes back and it's even worse because now you fed your body a chemical that has depleted the stuff. You see what I mean? Because that was on the list, right? So what I'm saying is, that's alcohol. But what I'm saying is that these things that are toted are great. They're wonderful. But it can't be like the savior. Because it has to be a combined effort. Our body just doesn't run on, let's say, serotonin. Like I said, it needs melatonin and tryptophan. Our body doesn't just run on one hormone. It's working together in unison, right? Like you ladies who prepared this, everybody chipped in, right? And so when everybody chips in, I call that synergy. Everything working together to make a greater good, a greater whole. And that's what happens, and that's what needs to happen with our body. So these guys are great, and I have echinacea golden seal in my house, and if a cold is threatening, I take it, and I do other stuff as well. But it's not like, oh, this is it. No. But that's the mindset people have, right? And I see it all the time. There's this new thing going around, and I'm going to say right now, if anyone's doing it, I have nothing against it. But what is that called? Oh, I forgot it. Darlene is doing it. Foods.
Essential oils.
It's essential oils, and that was a big thing that was going around too. And I think essential oils are great, and they have a lot of medicinal properties. That's great. No, it's another thing now that it's, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the new thing now. What they do? It's, No. It's a product now that's coming out, and it's like vegetables bottled in pills. Okay? And I looked over the stuff, because I look over these things, and they it's valid, and I think people who would take it will benefit from it, because you know why? Because that's not the only thing they're probably going to do either. Because once we get on a health kick, we usually do other things, right? That's not the only thing we usually do. But the thing, again, that's not the be. Now, if it's an incentive, great, but it shouldn't be the be-all and end-all, because guess what? The next thing comes, and the next thing comes, and the only thing that happens is that we spend a lot of money.
Well, somebody else is getting rich quick on their schemes, selling you the product that they're telling you is going to save your body.
Yes.
For the time being.
And like I said, it has some good qualities. Yeah, but like I said, but when we hang everything on that.
Plexus is another one coming out.
Yeah, Plexus is another thing coming in. And like I said, if anybody's doing these, I have nothing against them. But what I'm saying is, it can't be the be-all and end-all. It can be a means to get to an end. I do agree with. Okay. Addictive behaviors as well, when we have these imbalances, how our body controls temperature, endocrine regulation, and motor behavior. The way I can skills, like if I was a mechanic or if I made watches and things, those types of skills, those are our motor skills, you know? If you sew, if you do needlepoint, crochet, those are what we call motor skills. And they can be affected by this as well. Now, guess what? We talked about tryptophan, serotonin, and melatonin. They have to work together. Guess where you can find tryptophan? Anybody can help me out?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Well, let me ask you something. Is it in red meat?
No, I'm teasing.
Oh, you said everywhere, so.
All the good food.
Huh?
All the good food.
It's in Turkey.
Mm-hmm. It is actually in Turkey, okay? And this is another point I want to come up with. And this is maybe another talk altogether as well, because obviously I am trying to go towards more of a plant-based diet, okay? Because when the Surgeon General not too long ago said that we should be moving towards a plant-based diet, I agree with him. I really agree with him. Now the thing is that,
Grass-fed.
huh?
Grass-fed.
Grass-fed. Well, that's the one thing I'm going to say about that, because I do believe, like Dee, that we should go towards more of eating more raw foods. I mean, it's great to have like a few times out of the week, just a big old salad, you know, greens, and then another salad, just fruit, and that'd be your main meal with something on the side with bread or whatever it is you might want, crackers or whatever. Remember as well that certain foods have to be cooked to be digested properly and to get all the minerals you need out of it.
Amen.
So that we have to remember, you know, like carrots is one of those that you gotta cook it. Now, don't kill it to death, because, I mean, you know, but just get it where, you know, it's just barely steamed, and that'll help to release more of its properties than when it's raw. And it has something to do, and I think many, many moons ago, that wasn't the way with our forefathers to say in the Bible, because again, that is one of my references. That's why where I go to when I look at the past history. I think their digestive systems were a whole lot stronger than ours. Okay? So that's something to consider. But I do believe, yeah, I think it's a great idea to sit down and just you know, eat a plate of broccoli if you can. You know, let that be more of your main dish, and have other things on the side, you know, that are you know, maybe the brown rice and stuff. Because you have to remember that these foods are actually healing, and even though these foods now are being tampered with, you have to always remember that they still have the phytochemicals and the antioxidants that animal-based foods do not have for the most part. So even though they're being attacked, you know, we try to, if you can get organic, by all means do, but we can't always do that. We can't. But these foods still have properties that fight against the damage that's being done to them. Think about that as well. Even though some of these things are being done on a DNA level, but they still have those antioxidants, and they still have those phytochemicals. So keep that in mind as well. So, the turkey, yes, going back to that turkey, it has tryptophan. But guess what? It's high on cholesterol. It's not as high as pork or beef, or chicken and turkey, okay? Depending how it's cooked, but yeah, but still doesn't have that cholesterol in it that we don't need. You know, your body makes cholesterol. It doesn't need, you know, and if you want good fats, an avocado. How many of you like avocados? Okay? Maybe not all of you, but nuts have a lot of fat in them. So eat some nuts. Okay? And so these are things to consider. And so these foods have tryptophan. Okay? Let me see. Tryptophan, which works with the melatonin and the serotonin to help us sleep, particularly to help us sleep. It helps with other things, but sleep is one of, memory and sleep are biggies.
Right.
And so, let me see, what did I have today? I had a half avocado for supper, that I did have today. And I had some blueberries. I mean, that dish was blueberries or strawberries?
Smoothie?
Yeah.
That was a raspberry, blackberry, blueberry mix.
Oh, okay, so I got my berries in for sure. I got a bowl of, oh, that was pretty good.
Actually, I think it had strawberry too.
Oh, look at that. I was the berry girl today, okay? So,
You
I
had an
mean,
apple too, didn't you?
huh?
Didn't you have an apple?
Oh yeah, I had 2 apples, I had 4 oranges, that was for lunch. Because my meal for lunch was basically fruit. And then I had these little pieces of bread, they're called little pipettes, I think? The little round pieces of bread.
Pipette.
Pipettes. Oh, okay. Pipettes. I know, that was the wrong word. Anyway, and so I ate that with fruit, mainly with pieces of bread. And I was a happy camper for lunch. Okay? And that's an adjustment. It is an adjustment for, we're not used to that. You know, that's an adjustment. Yes.
I can attribute to what you're saying about the brain and how you felt. Have you heard of Dr. Graham, who advocates 80-10-10?
Yeah.
Well, and there's this guy, he's called the banana athlete. And he was saying, you know, like you could eat 10 bananas a day. And well, so I thought, okay, you know, I am going to try one day on this diet here, Daniel's diet. I'm just going to eat like, I thought I'll try 10. I got 5 down. That was all I could get down. But I kid you not, I was in such a happy mood. I felt so good that day. My brain was sharp, everything. I exercised, I had no pain. But the next day I tried, there's athletes who will not touch any kind of white sugar or brown sugar or raw sugar during training because it leaches the nutrients. But I didn't realize even the sugar cane juice, because I ate some raw ginger in sugar cane juice.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I had a cramp I didn't forget. It hurt so bad. But you know, I can eat honey, raw honey. I won't get a cramp. I can eat bananas. But there's something in sugar cane, whether it's raw or the other way.
But there may be also something that's affecting you
Yeah.
as well. Because sugar cane, it's better to eat the real sugar cane,
Right.
ultimately, like anything else,
Than the
right?
sugar juice, yeah.
Yes, that would be great, ultimately, if you could do that. But if I had to do, again, I mean, this is the standard here, right? Standard is to become totally vegan, plant-based. This is the, but you know, sometimes if we're down here and we're just learning, it's hard to jump up there. It's very hard to jump up there. And so we have to make progressions. And so we're talking about sugar, I'll jump over there and talk about that. Sugar, white sugar, is the worst thing you can ever put in your body. Because as Dee said, it depletes the body. Go ahead.
You can put it on a wound if you want, to cure the eye.
Yeah, and actually we did, when I was in Uchi Pines, we did that, and that's another story. We actually used that on a wound so that the bacteria would eat the sugar and not eat and not continue to eat the tissues of this individual. But anyway, it's like if I went to your house, I'll give you an analogy, and some of you may have heard this before, but if I went to your house, okay, Bill, I just met Bill, right? I go to your house and you say, oh, you know, me and my wife, we just make yourself at home, Lydia, and just, you can eat what you want. And I say, okay, great, and oh, you can take the car, yeah, you need it, and that's great. But after a while, I'm like using everything up, and I'm not replacing it, I'm not cleaning up. I don't even know where I put your car. Okay?
He lost the keys.
Okay? No, I didn't lose the keys, I just don't know where I put his car. How long are you going to keep me there, Bill? As nice as you and your wife are, how long are you going to keep me there?
We're gonna have some serious talk.
Yes. And those talks don't work?
Yeah, we go.
You say,
You're
Lydia,
gonna be
it's
next in
been
line
nice,
behind.
but I think we're gonna have to part, right? That's what sugar does. It brings nothing
Yeah.
to the environment. But it takes. Because for it to be processed, it needs to take vitamins and minerals from your body. Because that's the only way it can be processed. It can't just go through. It's not like fiber that can just go. Fiber is just to bulk up your stools so that you can go better, okay? Sugar is not that way. Sugar is there to take something from you. And it doesn't care. Okay? So think about it next time. But now you have honey, you have cane sugar. So if you have cane sugar, if you get it with more of its, the less processed the better, let's put it that way. Sugar has been processed to the ultimate. Usually it's beets. A lot of the sugar we get, white table sugar, is from beet.
And they're GMO.
And
They said that, I think that I heard a figure is 95% or something like that of the sugar is
Yeah.
sugar beets
Yeah.
now. And they
but
are-
remember, let's not be, like I said, but remember, these foods still have their antioxidants and their phytochemicals. If you can get organic, great. But this is another thing I say, okay, this is a standard, right? Sometimes it's too far. I cannot afford to buy everything organic. I cannot. Now, should I try to grow some stuff? Yes. Should I try to find some stuff more organic? Yes. Should I shoot for that? Yes. But, you know, be honest with you, my budget is not, for me personally, I can't always buy everything organic. It's just not feasible. So, I started doing research, and I started saying, well, how is this going to work? Remember that those foods still have their phytochemicals and their antioxidants that are working against those things in them. So they're better. Are they the best? No. But I'll be honest with you. We don't know what and 10 years down the line is going to bring and how all this internet stuff is affecting us. All this media stuff, we don't know, right? And I bet you most of us have a computer or two or more in our house, because that's just the way it is now. And the televisions that are now in our homes, they're not the same televisions we had, you know, way back when. Okay, so what am I saying? Am I saying it's hopeless? No. What I'm saying is we have to do the best we can. And then if we can make a change, okay, I made a change, you know, we try to do more sprouting on our own. And so we have more foods that are raw and have more nutrients to them, okay? That's one of the plans that we're working towards. And so good, we have that. And we're trying to grow more. So let's say you have a garden and you can't do everything. Just plant tomatoes. Because guess what? At least you'll have healthy organic tomatoes, which is more than you had last year. True? That one step. And then maybe the following, if you know how to grow, more power to you. But if you don't know, then start with tomatoes. I'll start with tomatoes and okra. Okra is very prolific. I never liked okra until I grew it once myself. And it's very prolific. The thing just grows and grows and grows. It's hard to kill it. So find plants that are hard to kill. If you don't know, you know what I'm getting at? You start somewhere simple. Simplicity is the key here, okay? This is wonderful. We went on a different path, but it was a good path, but I'm going to come back, all right? Here we go. Back to serotonin. Certain herbs that can help with raising serotonin levels, but I do recommend that we get it from our foods most of all. But sometimes we need to have a booster. Now, eating those 5 or 6 bananas or whatever, those are boosters. I really believe that, and I think we should do that every once in a while, if you can. When I was in Puerto Rico, I was in Puerto Rico for about 3 years. Oh my word. I had neighbors that I lived near the beach. That's where my parents' house was. And I had people that lived in the middle part, which is more mountainous, and they come with a whole, I don't know what you call that. It's a
stalk.
stalk, I guess, right? The thing, I couldn't lift it. There were all these little bananas, right? And I would just let them ripen, because in Puerto Rico you actually cook them green. I don't know if that's the healthiest, but they taste good. But he got them off the tree. He said, "Here, this is someone from one of our family members that were in them." I said, "Oh, here, I brought this by for you." And so I went to town eating bananas, eating these little baby. They were so good. And so I have boosters, okay, of what that is. And every once in a while, it's okay to have boosters. It's okay to have these boosters. Like I like to have some, I love Brussels sprouts. I never liked vegetables at all. Oh my word, I like tomatoes and corn. And corn is not a vegetable, it's a grain. And the tomato, well, it's more of a fruit than a vegetable. So I learned to love, Brussels sprouts. I eat a plate of Brussels sprouts with something on the side. And we get boosters of these antioxidants and phytochemicals. And we try to eliminate maybe foods that are high on the list of GMOs, like corn. Let's see if we can find other things. You know what I'm getting at? But if you can't, get it organic, but if you can't, do the best you can. Okay? You have to do the best you can. Because remember, if you stress over it, it's defeating the purpose. it's gonna get depleted anyway, so, you know, in your body. Go ahead, sir.
What's the plant on the right that's in that picture
Oh.
with the dandelion? The one on the right?
I think that's echinacea.
Burdock.
Burdock.
Is it burdock?
This is gotta be one of the ones you put on there for the picture, or the list. Echinacea's not on the list.
That looks like an echinacea to me.
Looks like blessed thistle.
Okay.
Echinacea's a purple coneflower. It doesn't look like a purple coneflower.
Well, then we have some research to do, because sometimes I try to match them up, but sometimes I just find out, oh, this is a good thing, so I just.
I got something that looks like that growing in my yard in the summertime, that's why I wondered what it was.
I'm not 100%
I cut them down
sure.
because I don't like them.
Oh, that's this one.
That's what it looks like, is
That's
blessed
thistle.
thistle,
Well,
which
we
is very
getting-
good for the liver.
We're getting two consensus here.
You said it was,
The bloom looks like a this.
Well, so,
Something like
it's, yeah, well, I'm saying echinacea, but
But the leaf
they're
doesn't-
saying thistle, and so I'm inclined to that.
I don't know though.
as
the leaf
well.
doesn't
Yeah, the
seem
leaf
like-
doesn't look
it
right,
doesn't
but
look
the other
like
does,
thistle,
yeah.
though. We have
Okay.
thistles.
We need to go
Yeah.
on a plant,
Thistles.
plant
Might be burdock.
huh?
hunt or something like that. No, that's a good question. No, what you do, sir, if you put your name down on there, Amy, find out, because see, this is how I learn. Now I will go research that, and, because I like to learn these things when I get these questions, and we'll give you an answer, okay? Okay.
And the yellow one is,
Make sure we know, we remember, we write that down.
I got it.
Could it be St. John?
yes.
I think they got a bigger leaf.
Yeah, I think they have a bigger lead.
That
Okay.
has spines on it, so I'm not sure.
Well, good. We'll remember these, that's for sure. These also help them. And herbs, again, they're not the be-all and end-all. They can't be. Okay? They are supplements. And when sometimes we need extra boosters. And also remember one thing. With some of these herbs and whatnot, they scare people to death about herbs. You ever realize that? And there's very little research on them, which is unfortunate. There is research on them, but not like it is on, if you're looking at conventional medicine. I have nothing wrong, I'm not against conventional medicine, but I have to put the but in there. Herbs and things have a big place, because where do most of these medications come from? The derivatives are from plants. They process them, they put them more concentrated, they add other chemicals to them. My thing is, well, let's find out what some of these properties are and then use them. And I'll do that. Like, I've been using Skull Cap. Skull Cap is a great muscle relaxer and it helps you fall asleep. Now, people tell me, oh, I've taken 2 and it didn't do anything. You got to take 4. Sometimes I'll take 8. I'm larger, okay? And so, because this is an herb, when they tell you to take 2 on the bottle, that's what by law they have to tell you. Now, unless you're dealing with, and that's why, but you need to know something about your herbs. Like skull cap is not a big issue. And sometimes you see warnings on certain of these things. You have to also remember, where's that warning coming from? What amazes me is that where are the warnings on the meat packages? I feel like just like you have on cigarettes, there should be warnings on meat packages. High fat, high cholesterol. Now they're radiating stuff. And the way it's processed.
And eating GMO corn.
And, and so, but they don't label it. But a poor little plant is going to be the death of you. So what I'm saying, we need to be smart. We need to be intelligent. And nowadays we have the internet and we can look it up and say, oh, what's that? And when you research, get the consensus. Sometimes you have to do a lot of research and get like, okay, where is this kind of tipping? Because you'll find one side, you find another, and okay, you have to get like a body of consensus. Okay? And some people say, I don't have time to research. We're gonna have to have time because it's your body. And nobody is gonna live in your body but you. Right? And so you have to keep that in mind. But the thing is, we can start with small things. You look up one herb and you get intelligent about that herb. Like I said, skull cap is a great muscle relaxer. And it helps you to sleep. Not because it's like a sleeping pill, but because it relaxes your muscles. And you can fight it. I tell people you can fight it. I have to tell the story. My mother, who is just turned 91 years old last week, and my father turned 85, 86. Their birthdays around the same time. My mother got very sick. Her finger got infected somehow. I think it was because of a dog that my sister was kind of caring for someone else. And you know, as you get older, your skin gets very frail and thin. So what happened was she ended up with what's called a micro cut. Probably the dog, you know, she pet the dog or the dog got close and didn't take much. One of those little canines from my little teeth just probably nicked her and that was it. So it started, and so my sister took her to the doctor. I told her to do some natural stuff, but my sister's not there yet. My sister's taking care of him right now, so you know, I can do so much. And so I told her, well, okay, go ahead. My sister took her to the doctor 3 times. The 3rd time, she's calling me back, because each time she calls me, but that time she calls me back and says, this is progressing. The antibiotics work, but then they wear off, or after the 2 weeks, now it's spreading and it's getting towards her elbow. Okay? And this is a story about skullcap. Yeah. I'm going to tell on you. So I was in Puerto Rico at that time, could not come home because I was in the process of selling my parents' house and we were doing the closing, so I cannot leave at that time. I told Amy, who was in the States, go to my sister's house and here's what you get. These are all the herbs I want you to get, and this is the treatments, because we do hydrotherapy treatments, we do other treatments, which I have seen incredible results with. Incredible. And she had skullcap with her. One day, my mom, being older, she has dementia, they were doing a water treatment on her, and this time I was Skyping. We were Skyping, and I told her, let me see my mother, you know. And she's all relaxed. Yeah, it's kind of funny. And she's all relaxed, and she's not complaining about the treatment. I'm like, there's something wrong. And she always complains about, you know, especially when she's older. It's like, what are you doing to me, you know, and all this. We were doing water and charcoal and massage. We're doing everything off of that hand to get that hand better. And by the way, it did get better. Without doctor's intervention, it got better. And I asked her, just questioned, I said, okay, this is the protocol. What did you do? And did you give her this? Yeah, we gave her skullcap. How much skullcap did we give her?
I think by the time you called, it was close to 24 or something, because you were telling me it was too much.
Wow.
We got our communication crossed through Skype and phone, so somehow we got the numbers wrong.
My mother is not tall. Mind you, my mother's 5'2", my father's 5'4". I did not get their height at all. My grandfathers were very tall, so I got it from them. So this is a little lady. She's thin. She's not, you know, hefty lady either. She's at a good weight.
Between 20 and 24.
Yeah, I saw it. So you gave her basically a capsule an hour for the entire day. I mean, they give about 22 to 24. That's kind of a capsule an hour for a full 24-hour period. So my mother, she was just, whatever. You do whatever you want to me. She was so relaxed. But you know what? She slept.
For a good day.
She slept for the whole day. Do you know that helped? Do you know that many times when people have gone through traumatic accidents, do you know what? They will put them in comas. You know why? To rejuvenate the body. To help the body heals itself, okay? Now, am I saying, I don't even know we should have caught this on camera. Am I saying that that's what should have happened? No. But what I think it is a testimony too is that my mother did okay.
It wasn't a drug.
It's not a drug. Now, are there some herbs you have to be more careful with? Yes. Black cohosh you have to be careful with, which is the one that causes hypertension. Licorice you have to be careful with because it can raise your blood pressure. Of course, because these will have effects as well because they're derivatives. Remember, drugs come from these. That's why they use them, because they will do something. But you will have to take them in much higher quantities to get similar dramatic effects. So that's why I tell people, if the bottle says 2, take 4 at one shot, or 5. Because you have to. They don't make it that concentrated, you see? And half the time they put other stuff, and that's the other thing. If you're going to buy, try to buy just that one herb. Let it be that herb. Don't have it multiplied, because by the time they put this and this and this and this, what the desired effect what you want from that particular herb that you're buying that they're advertising on the bottle, there's hardly anything in it. So try to stick to whatever. If you're buying echinacea, make sure it's echinacea and not a bunch of other stuff. If it's golden seal, make sure it's golden seal, okay? All right. But anyway, and my mother did fine. And the doctors, my sister admitted her to the hospital. After 3 days, my mother was hallucinating. My sister was going through the roof too, because she spent the whole 3 days with her there, so she was exhausted. And the infection had gone up to here. They were giving her heavy antibiotics, and it wasn't working. I told my sister, at that time she was, 87? Something like that?
Like, it's been about 3 years.
Yeah, she's about 87 or so. I said, I told my sister, she's already old. Bring her home. Amy's going. We're going to be Skyping. And if that doesn't work, we'll go to Yuchi Pines, okay? We had backup, but we'll go to Wawa. We have backup. And so, but Amy went for a week, showed my sister what to do. My sister continued. She stayed at home and continued. But it took 3 weeks. My sister calls me. I come from Puerto Rico. My sister calls me. You're going to come to the doctor with me, right? I go, why? Because I took her out of the hospital without the doctor's permission. Because she wasn't getting any better. And we figured if something was going to happen, she might as well die at home. You see what I mean? Then die there.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't make any sense for her to be there. So she goes, but I want you to come to the doctor. I go, why me? Because you're the one who got us into this mess. Now the doctor's wondering why we haven't taken her. The primary doctor. Because it wasn't the doctor in the hospital, or when they admitted her, it wasn't the same doctor. But he had recommended that she go to the hospital. And so we went with her, and you know what he did? It was priceless. He looks at the arm, and he takes the other arm, and he's doing this. Because he had seen the thing up to here already. And he's doing this. And he's doing this. And he goes up, and he looks at my sister, because he doesn't really know me. I'm in the room, but he doesn't know me. What did you do? And my sister says, talk to her. I'm like, well, sir, I was at a place called Yuchi Pines Institute, and we did things with alternative medicines. And I said, you should look up the website. He couldn't gainsay what had happened. Her arm was healed, totally healed.
You could see a difference when I left.
Huh?
Even on Skype, you were saying in 1 week you could see a difference.
You could see a difference, but you still had to work with it. This is dealing with natural remedies. You have to work with them. But when the body heals itself, it does a much better job. Anyway, again, we went on a little side road. We went down that avenue. I'm coming back. Okay, all right. And we have a lot of stories like that. Oh. Proper eating habits is a far superior method of balancing mood and sleep patterns than the quick fix and side effects and possible hazards of drug and even nutrient supplementation. Because I feel that we should try to get whatever we can from our food and then supplement. Don't use supplement as your food. Some people do that. I've seen people, sometimes I'll go, they'll ask me, and I'm not looking for this stuff, but they open the cabinet, you think that's too many supplements? And the cabinet is full of supplements. And I say, where's your food? It's over here. And this is the cabinet of supplements, and here's my food. I'm like, well, let's get this over here, and let's get this over here. Because you need nutrients. Your body, the digestive tract has to exercise. It has to digest stuff, you see? Okay, that's why it's not also good to have liquid diets, because after a while your digestive system will get shot. Remember, this peristalsis is contractions of a muscle, and it has to work. If this liquid's going down all the time, it's like, oh, I'm taking a vacation. And after a while, I like the vacation. I ain't coming back. It damages the digestive tract. That's another side street. But anyway, supplementation alone, I'm not negating it. Herbs and supplements and things, they're great. But make sure if you're going to get them, they're in addition to your food. Okay? I'm not big on multivitamins, because I think if you have a problem, you address that problem with your food. You find your foods that are high in that mineral or vitamin, eat more of it, and then you start supplementing if that's not working. And then that, whatever it is that you may be needing, make sure that it's it alone, not a combination of things. Because I cannot open up my stomach and say, oh, those are the vitamins I need. And remember, when you're taking them out of their original package, they have been stripped. And they're not in combination anymore with the other nutrients. Remember the sugar depletes you? Well, vitamins that have been separated from their original packaging, which is the food, plant-based foods, right? They then need to take other things. And it's a lot of stuff when you put multivitamin together in your body. If you take it every once in a while, not a big deal. But I know people that do that every day, and it may not be the best. If you have a problem, address the problem, find things that are high in that, eat more of that in your foods, and then supplement with just that particular thing. Okay? Or if there's a few things, maybe you can do a few things, but don't, like, you know, I've seen things that have a list, the whole back of the label is full of stuff. Okay? That's a lot for the body to deal with. The simpler we go, the better. I had a hand up? No? Okay.
Yes, I did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What I was going to tell you is on the internet, I watch a lot of health summits, and a lot of it, you know, was not vegan. And this one doctor, she was not. She had been, I think, or vegetarian. But anyway, long story short, she had MS. And she got worse and worse and worse until she was in a wheelchair. And she was an MD who then couldn't be an MD, you know. I mean, she really didn't handle her practice anymore. But anyway, somewhere along the line, you know, she tried supplements. She tried this, she tried that. And it came to her, I guess, I forget how she worded it all, that she should find out where the where those vitamins and minerals were in food. So she researched until she knew all that, and that's what she did. And she advocates, I don't know, 9 cups of vegetables, there are some huge amounts of vegetables at a meal and everything and through the day. But that's how she did it, and she started really getting well once she went to the food instead of the supplements.
That's interesting. And that's another thing to note, that unfortunately, because I've worked with different doctors, and they're just not trained in this stuff.
Oh, no.
For her, with that lady, that doctor, it was a revelation. Let's look at the nutrients. They're not trained that way.
That don't make them no money.
Huh?
That don't make them no money.
But you know what? And that may be the case, but you know, there's a lot of doctors I've spoken with as well that they say, I wish I could have a different practice. But their overhead and their malpractice, they have to have certain amounts of, all this stuff kind of puts them in a box. And it's very hard to think out of that box, even if they want to. And then they haven't had the training. They literally have to they have to get additional training. And after, I don't know how many years of training for a doctor, I mean, you're hard pressed with the loans you have to take out to try to get more education after that. So it's true that some of them are just in it for the money. I agree with you. But I've talked to a lot of them that say, you know, I wish we could do this differently.
But a lot of the patients too, that the doctors I talk to, they say, well, you know, my patients don't feel like they've been treated if they don't have a prescription.
That's true. You have a lot of doctors say
They
they're not.
want a pill for everything.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Again, and it's the education that people are having, what's out there in society and whatnot. So I wanted to touch bases on this, and this, and just some basic things about the idea that sometimes we have basic things that can help us, and we overlook them. We start to say, well, what can I take? Can I take this? What else can I take? Maybe there's some things I need to leave out. And maybe it's not just my food. You see what I mean? Everything's about what can I take? Well, maybe there's something, maybe I'm not getting enough rest. How simple is that? Maybe I'm not getting enough water. Especially if you get good quality water, better. I'm not getting enough air, or the right type of air. I'm not getting out to walk. You know how many muscles our bodies have? We were made for movement. Tell me.
650.
Thank you. These are fitness trainers. And so, we were made for movement. Like I said, the digestive tract is a big muscle. The stomach is actually several muscles, overlapping each other, so it can just really churn the food. Our heart, massive muscle right there, massive muscle. Even the arteries and the capillaries and the veins, they're all muscle. That's a muscle. We're all muscle. The diaphragm, for breathing, it's a muscle. We are all muscle. We should move, how many muscles we have? 600 how many?
650.
Okay, we should at least move 650 times a day for each muscle. Or at least a week. I don't even think some people move 650 times a week, never mind a day. You know, so what I'm getting at, sometimes there are things, and even sunshine, I know people saying now, well, the sun this and the sun that. Yeah, it's true, but then take anybody go lay out in the sun? You know? I'm not telling anybody to go to lay out in the sun, but what I'm telling them is to, well, maybe you can get the early morning hours or the evening hours, and maybe in your arms and your face, you know, when the sun is not that bright, and just get some good sun in. Or if you're mowing the lawn, hey, you're good to go. Especially if you put some maybe short sleeve, you know, 3/4 sleeves on or something, and expose your face for 10 or 15 minutes, and then put the hat back on. We need to get that. You have vitamin D. Do you know vitamin D hits our skin, and there's cholesterol right underneath our skin. And so when it hits that cholesterol, it takes it out of the bloodstream, where it can cause problems, and it actually converts it into another hormone. It can be pre-vitamin D, or it can be another hormone. And then it says, okay, well, now you're in there now. When the body needs you, we can use you. That's just one thing that the sun can do. We're not talking about water and air. Water, we're blinking, we need water. You see, I've taken water several times because I'm talking and I'm using up water. Our joints need water. The blood needs it. We are mostly water. But our bodies maybe don't see it. Maybe we take a shower. That's great. But how about the insides? Poor body has to deal with all these. You know, every time we move, the minute we get up in the morning, we're starting to produce toxins, right? We ate. What did we produce? Garbage, right? You cook, you have to open up stuff, you produce garbage. They're called the waste products. Your body, it moves, it thinks, it starts producing waste products. You know? And so we need the water, get that out. Like I said, I'm just touching on a few of them, and we don't have that much time left.
How much water do you think we should drink? I mean, there's so many.
There's so many different.
I mean, did God really make us to be drowning ourselves in water? I mean, like you constantly have to drink water.
Okay, let me ask you this: what would you consider enough water for
I
you?
mean, how about if you just drink when you're thirsty?
You can't go by that.
Half your weight in water.
Huh? Half your weight in
Half
water?
your weight.
That's one of the ways of doing it. Other people, there's different, you get online and there's different ratios that you can do by your weight, and you times it by this. You can't go by your thirst, because unlike animals, their thirst mechanism equals their need of water. Our thirst mechanism doesn't.
It doesn't, because I've been noticing I have 2 dogs, and I thought, well, they just drink when they're hungry. They don't sit there, I mean, thirsty. They don't just drink water all day long.
Yeah, but their water needs are different, number one. And again, their thirst, and also depends how active they are. If they're outside running, they'll be drinking a whole lot more water. Dogs that are just what they call outside dogs, you look at that water thing, you got to fill it up a few times. If they're inside dog, it's different. Their activity level is different as well. But animals, their need and their thirst mechanism are equal. Ours is not. Our thirst mechanism does not equal our need for our body. By the time we get thirsty, we're dehydrated.
So how much?
At least. How tall are you, ma'am? About
5'3".
5'3". If you can, it depends. Again, you have to work up to it, but I would say at least 8-ounce glasses. That's what the basis, the consensus is. At least 8. Now, if you're active, it needs to be more. If you're sweating, it should be a little bit more. When I was in Puerto Rico, there was no fans there. My parents didn't have any fans, no AC. Well, no, there were fans because I bought some fans, but there was no AC. I came out of the shower, and it wasn't the water, it was my own perspiration. About just a minute I walked out of the shower, because it's just hot, it's Puerto Rico, it's the tropics. And so there, I was drinking about 1.5 gallons of water per day. And then I'm tall, I was drinking a whole lot more water there. So also depends on activity levels. But the average would say, people say, at least 7 to 8 ounce glasses. I feel like I need to drink like almost a gallon a day for me. I work out and whatnot, or I try to, and when I get up in the morning, I try to have at least a quart to a quart and a half to start out the day. But that's okay, but that's me. You, especially if you're not used to that, first of all, if you're not used to it, then your bladder has to get used to it. And so you might make more trips at first, and hopefully if you don't, and then as we get older, sometimes we have more bladder, challenges, so you shouldn't drink after a certain time in the evening. I don't care, I drink anyway, I just get up and go to the bathroom, I'll have to go back to sleep. That's the end of it. I get up once a night as I'm getting older. And so, but the thing is that you do it gradually. Try to get some water in the morning. When you get up, and make it a little on the hotter side, because that helps to start your intestines working, okay? It kind of gives them a boost. And so, and try just 8 ounces. And try to do it progressively, okay? After a while, your body will say, yes, I need water. And remember, but when you're thirsty already, you're dehydrated. Like I said, animals are different than us, okay? You're welcome. And I'm going to skip here. You have what we call PET scans, which are brain scans, reveal decreased blood flow to the frontal lobe of chronically sleep-deprived individuals. Most people sleep an average of 5 to 6 hours a night. And I know some people say, well, that's just me. I go, well, you know what? We all have the same brain and the same type of physiology. And it's best to get at least 7 to 8. At least 7, ideally 8. Babies sleep most of the day. I know, because I take care of a little baby. She sleeps most of the day. Teenagers actually should get about 9 to 10 hours of sleep, because their bodies are still growing. And do they nowadays? No, that's another story, right? Adults, at least 7 to 8. And it shouldn't matter as you get older. Sometimes we form bad habits, and that could be part of it. So keep that in mind. Try to get some sleep. Try to go to sleep early, because the hours before midnight are more powerful than the hours after midnight. And be consistent. And I know some people say, well, I'm sleepy, if I'm there, I can't sleep, and they get up. No, stay there. You know why? Because at least you're resting. Put on some music. You listen to music. Sometimes I'll put on listen to some music, or I like sermons, so I'll put on a sermon, and I just kind of fade. Sometimes we're just rewinding the day. We're playing that camera. Oh, I haven't done this. I got to do this tomorrow. I got to do this next week. I got to do this next year. Do you have that experience, or that's just me, huh? Okay. And we have to turn the camera off in our brain. And sometimes I just start doing these one-sentence prayers. Lord, be with this person, or be with this person. I just keep going. And next thing is morning. Just one little quick. I don't get too deep, because I don't want to stimulate my brain. Just like, Lord, help my sister. Lord, help her husband. Lord, just real simple. And that kind of, that's my version of counting sheep, okay? But remember we talked about not having enough blood flow to the brain? Depletes the frontal lobe. That's where you make your decisions. That's where you make good choices. Everybody's going to make a choice. Now, whether or not it's going to be a good one or a smart one depends on how well we're protecting our frontal lobe. That's sleep. I'm just going to go through some stuff quickly. Fresh air, sunshine, and water as well. They're all important. I'll just share this one on water. So we're talking about water. Deprivation associated with decrease in serotonin levels and a 3-fold increase in serotonin metabolism. That means more of it is used up when we're dehydrated. And we need the serotonin, you see, for sleeping. We don't need to be it being as a waste product. The blood cortisone is our stress hormone level, is double when we are deprived of the water we need and we're dehydrated. So, in other words, serotonin is used up faster when we're dehydrated, as well as cortisone levels go higher, the stress hormone, which is not good to have high levels of cortisol in the body, because it's the one that gives you the fight or flight. It just gets you revved up. Imagine being revved up all the time. That's what that does. And so it increases that hormone and decreases the serotonin, which you need for sleeping and various other things. So I'm going to leave it at that. So just think about lifestyle. And hopefully, maybe we could come back and do some more talks if you all enjoyed this. Please make sure you fill out the information, and we'll let you know whether it's with D or where we're having them. And hopefully in the future when we open up the Lifestyle Center, because that's one of my goals, and I've been really praying about that. So Dee, would you like to close for us?
Charles, would you pray for us? Thank you. And folks, before we say prayer, the donation back here goes to them. They traveled all the way from Gunnersville, and let's give her a big hand. They've done excellent.
I have somebody to pray for. We have a little granddaughter born on December 16th, and she's a dearie.
Did everybody get a call?
She has PKU. I don't know if anybody's familiar with PKU. And in fact, I wanted to talk to you about that. Our granddaughter has it.
Okay.
And so would you please pray for little Colette, is her name. And because we're praying for a healing for her. It's not usually life-threatening, but interestingly enough, she can't have any animal products there, which is fine, but you can't have beans or nuts and seeds either because they're high protein. It's kind of a long story, but it has to do with her lacking, or else it's not working right, an enzyme in her liver. It takes both parents to have the carrier. And so anyway, she's healthy and strong and everything. She's delightful, but we're just praying for healing. So if you pray for Colette, and tonight if you would just kind of include Colette in your closing prayer, so we can do 2 or 3 together, pray for her. We've done so much for her to be healed. Thank you.
All right, we're going to have prayer, please.
Our Father in heaven, we're so thankful for the many blessings of life, the joy of thy salvation. Father, we thank you for the privilege we have to assemble ourselves together in meetings like this, that we present our bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to you, Father. Lord, with this special request for this baby, Lord, you might put your healing hand to her body, strengthen her, and bless each one. Watch over each one of us for our safety as we travel on the highways. Bless us, and we'll thank you and praise you. For in Christ's name we ask you. Amen.